News Tonight, I am Rhoda Ngonzi, and on sign language Elizabeth Nakakoni. Let's take a look at the top stories tonight. Human Rights Commission of Parliament recommends immediate arrest of Brian White. Rebel leader Dominic Ongwen handed 25-year jail term. While Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development posts 90% score in the NRM manifesto. In the world of sports, group stage qualifiers for the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar postponed to September. Hello once again. Parliament has recommended for the immediate arrest of Brian Chirumira, popularly known as Brian White, to be charged for all the sexual offences committed as outlined in their report presented on Thursday on the floor of Parliament. While presenting a report of the Committee on Human Rights on the allegations of sexual abuse and violation of human rights by Mr. Brian Chirumira against Stella Nandaula and other women, the Vice Chairperson of the committee, Agnes Taka, told Parliament that it was not just one but several cases of sexual harassment, demanding that the harassed girls get justice. Brian White's woes started in May last year when a number of girls came out accusing him of sexually harassing them while working at his charity foundation, Brian White Foundation, which, according to the Human Rights Committee, was operating illegally, and its license has since been revoked.
Police should issue restraining orders to prevent Mr. Chirumira Brian from contacting the girls and their families whose rights were allegedly violated by him, namely Miss Stella Nandaula, Miss Vivian Mutanda, Miss Letitia Nabulime, and Miss Moon Tekisha. Mr. Brian Chirumira should be charged with defilement of Miss Letitia Nabulime, a 17-year-old at the time he raped her and got her pregnant. This is in accordance with Section 129 of the Penal Code Act. Mr. Brian Chirumira should be charged with trafficking in persons in accordance with Section 2 of the Trafficking in Persons Act of 2009. Mr. Brian Chirumira should immediately be arrested and charged for all the sexual offences committed as outlined in this report, given that justice delayed is justice denied. The government, through its security agencies, should trace and produce Ms. Stella Nandaula. The Uganda police should expeditiously investigate the allegations of sexual abuse as outlined above, and the culprits should be prosecuted. The Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development should provide counselling services, psychosocial support for the girls whose rights were grossly violated by Mr. Chirumira. And lastly, the Inspector General of Police should take disciplinary action about the OCCID and the OC Kabalagala police at the time, the police station, for their display of lack of impartiality and the lax way of handling this case.
The former Lord's Resistance Army commander Dominic Ongwen has been sentenced to 25-year imprisonment by the International Criminal Court sitting at The Hague. This comes after the former child soldier was convicted on 61 out of 70 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity. While passing the sentence, the presiding judge, Bertram Schmidt, said the sentence was reached after thorough examination and weighing of the fact that the convict, Dominic Ongwen, was brutally tortured when he was recruited as a child soldier.
This is understandable.
On February 4th this year, the International Criminal Court convicted former child soldier and commander of the Joseph Kony-led Lord's Resistance Army, Dominic Ongwen, on 61 counts of murder, rape and sexual enslavement, among others, committed during the reign of terror in the early 2000s by the LRA. On Thursday, the same court, presided over by Judge Bertram Shemit, handed down Dominic Ongwen a 25-year jail term.
This is why the Chamber has decided not to sentence Dominic Ongwen to the exceptional penalty of life imprisonment. The Chamber has thus excluded a joint sentence corresponding to the minimum possible, that is 20 years of imprisonment, and the maximum possible, that is life imprisonment. In light of the gravity of the crimes that you committed, the applicable mitigating and aggravating circumstances, and your specific individual circumstances, the Chamber sentences you to a total period of imprisonment of 25 years as a joint sentence for the 61 crimes of which you were found guilty.
However, the same court says the time the convict spent in detention at The Hague will be duly deducted from the 25 years.
You will receive credit for the period between 4th January 2015 and today, 6 May 2021, during which you have been detained in accordance with an order of this court or in connection with conduct underlying your crimes. This period will be deducted from the total time of imprisonment imposed on you.
Justifying the sentence, the presiding judge explains that as a child soldier, Dominic Ongwen suffered physical and emotional torture following his abduction by the LRA when he was just 9 years of age.
It is also adequate with a view to deterring others from committing similar crimes in the future and discouraging Dominic Ongwen's own recidivism.
Meanwhile, one of the judges, Raoul Pangalangan, dissented the 25-year jail term, preferring that the convict deserved a maximum imprisonment of 30 years.
The strongest condemnation by the international community and acknowledge the great harm and suffering caused to the victims, end of quote, and that the crimes for which the convicted persons has been found guilty warrant a sentence of 30 years of imprisonment.
For now, Dominic Ongwen remains in detention at The Hague until preparations for when and where he will serve his sentence will be determined, which will also be handled after his appeal, if any. It should be remembered that Dominic Ongwen surrendered himself to the U.S. Special Forces in 2015 as the force was searching for Joseph Kony, the said mastermind of the LRA doctrine in the Central African Republic. Dorcas Kimono, UBC News.
Now, the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance has dispatched more computers to government agencies. The computers, which have been procured through the National Information Technology Authority, NITAU, will go to government hospitals, local government administrations, judiciary, among others.
During her recent regional tours across the country, the Minister for ICT, Judith Nabakuba, inspected different schools to ascertain the status of their laboratories. In Ankole sub-region, Tale Secondary School is one of the institutions sailing on the newly equipped computer laboratory by Government of Uganda.
This has helped the students to get the skills, and most of the students have got emails, the communication is easier. So it has helped us.
I want to thank the Ministry of Education for the partnership or collaboration with the Ministry of ICT to ensure that we build ICT laboratories in most schools. We've been able to do it through the RCDF. A number of schools have benefited.
In line with these developments, this Thursday, 6th May, 2021, the Minister for ICT, Judith Nabakuba, in collaboration with National Information Technology Authority, NITAU, have dispatched off yet another batch of 700 computers to key government agencies.
Today we are handing over these 700 laptops. They are going to be given to different MDAs. Like I told you, we want them to embrace e-government, but also taking e-services to the communities. This is the beginning of our bigger project We want most of the government MDAs, including local governments, to be connected online, and also to reduce on the cost of buying reams of paper.
This time round, the beneficiaries will include government hospitals, local government administration, tourism sites, among others.
So as we hand out the laptops, we also have plans to expand on this project. So this is not the end. There are 700 laptops. As the Honorable Minister said, they are going to the Justice and Law departments. They're also going to the schools. They will go to hospitals and local government offices.
So they will be trained using the Uganda Institute of Communication Technology. Then NITAU will be responsible for connectivity, extending fiber, extending last mile, but also where possible providing gadgets, computers that will aid the different MDAs.
According to Minister Judith Nabakoba, such initiatives will not only stem down corruption in government agencies, but also cut down the expenses. Robert Onyango, UBC News, Kampala.
Members from different political parties under the umbrella of the National Consultative Forum have raised a number of issues that happened during and after the elections to the Chairman Electoral Commission. Among the issues raised included corruption and mismanagement of the electoral process. This was at a meeting held in Kampala.
Have today, under their umbrella, the National Consultative Forum held a plenary discussion on outcomes of the 2021 general election.
Of the elements of decentralization is to be able to sustain yourselves. So I think that one element that is affecting our democracy now is a lack of stability of these institutions, including political parties themselves.
The Democratic Party believes that government should not lose control of the social affairs of the country.
We believe that certain aspects of the nation should not be tendered and given and left in the hands of the private person. For I think there is a need for us to advocate that they remove the guns from the LDU and the guns are purely left in the hands of the properly trained police. Thank you.
They urge government to organize different platforms where they can dialogue issues pertaining to national development and unity.
Members, I think it's high time we sit down and dialogue and see how we can stem a bad trend that is stifling and killing democratic process in the country.
The Secretary Electoral Commission responded to their concerns.
The Electoral Commission was in charge of the electoral process, and we conducted the electoral process successfully, and at no incident did the army take over. There were pockets where some people wanted to interrupt, and where we were informed, we intercepted and took charge of our activities.
Among the parties that attended included the Democratic Party, DP, National Alliance for Transformation, ANT, and Uganda People's Congress, UPC, among others. Jane Ramcha, UBC News.
The National Joint Steering Committee of the EU-UN Spotlight Initiative, a program that targets eliminating violence against women and girls, has approved a second phase of the Spotlight Uganda country program following impressive performance during the first phase. Now, the steering committee has agreed to allocate more funds worth $370,000 for sustainability of the program in the second phase.
2 years ago, Spotlight Initiative program was launched as a demonstration fund for the advancement of the Social Development Goal 5 that aims at achieving gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls through elimination of all forms of gender-based violence. After evaluation of the first phase, findings indicate that there has been full commitment from all partners as well as communities towards achieving the objectives of the program. Angela Nakafero, the Commissioner Gender and Women Affairs in the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, highlights of the key indicators of this commitment.
All of us celebrate the recent development of enacting the Sexual Offences Bill, as well as the Succession Act that was adopted by the government of Uganda. We hope that this alone will help us in ensuring that our young girls that unfortunately find themselves pregnant and mothers at a tender age can go back and continue with the education.
In consideration of this and other indicators, the EU-UN-led National Steering Committee has lauded government for the commitment exhibited. The committee has earmarked intentions to allocate a tune of US $370,000 for the sustainability of the program through the second phase.
Recognizing that this is not something to be carried on the shoulder of the Ministry of Gender alone. Also putting together with the Ministry of Gender a basket fund for the implementation of the UN Resolution 1325 that has a huge dimension on GBV.
During the meeting, Agre Chibenge, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, revealed the UK-funded GBV Shelters program is ending sometime in August this year.
The need to strengthen participation by government at all levels to ensure that we mainstream all interventions of violence against women across national and subnational programs.
Since 2013, government in partnership with UK government has been operating 13 GBV shelters in the districts of Amoro, Gulu, Kampala, Katakwi, Kwen, Kumi, Lira, Masaka, Mbarara, Moroto, Mubende, Nebi and Palisa. Shaidat Nasaku, UBC News.
Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries has been ranked best performing sector in regards to gender and equity requirements. According to the 2021-22 report released by Equal Opportunities Commission, there has been an improvement in the performance of gender and equity in most government sectors as compared to the past years.
The assessment report released by Equal Opportunities Commission for the financial year 2021-2022, a total of 174 ministerial policies complied, while 13 did not comply with gender and equity requirements.
The best is the Minister of Gender, the Equal Opportunities Commission, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Water and Environment. So we could talk about local governments and we can talk about Chira municipality, we can talk about Wabim, Buko, those ones performed badly.
Samuagalele discloses challenges limiting performance in some sectors. However, he called for an increase in the Commission's budget to enable service delivery to all Ugandans.
Others are performing badly because of lack of training and sensitization, which we are doing now vigorously, except that the resources are rather little. For us to be able to do this, we need to go out of Kampala, where we are seated. Then imagine the people who are marginalized from Kapchola, from Chisoro, from Bundibujo, they cannot access our offices. So we are of the view, and we have budgeted for this, that we should open up regional offices the way courts do.
Although a lot has been done to enhance gender and equity inclusiveness in some government sectors, Permanent Secretary to the Minister of Gender, David Chibenge, says there is need for public mindset.
Because for one to appreciate the value of a fellow human being and see that person at the same level, I think we must deal with the mindset challenges. We must deal with the norms, values of people. And this in itself requires that we address ourselves, I think, to the minds of people before we even get to the level of when people become planners or agents of government.
Another important result is the establishment of an online system, the Gender and Equity Management Information System, to facilitate tracking, reporting and processing of information on gender and equity, compliance of policies, legal and institutional frameworks.
Deborah Namamonde, UBC News.
Meanwhile, humanitarian organizations are urged to be transparent in all order to avoid government interventions in their operations. While closing the local and national actors empowerment project, State Minister for Disaster Preparedness Musa Echweru reiterated government's commitment to work with non-governmental organizations.
Government has fallen out with the non-government organizations based on their mode of operations.
CSOs at the local level, at the national level, you demand of government to be transparent. But you must be transparent yourselves. Yes, government, you must, it is your duty to hold government accountable. But it is also the duty of government to hold you accountable. So it is also mutual.
Minister Echweru was closing the 5-year Oxfam-funded project dubbed Empowering Local and National Humanitarian Actors, intending to create mutual relationship between international and local humanitarian organizations.
To discuss within government, how can we help these groups to catalyze development at the local level? Now that is going to be our focus. So we're going to do that.
Oxfam International signed a charter for change with the local humanitarian organizations in 2016 to prepare these actors on how to provide rapid response in case of any disaster in the remote areas.
The local humanitarian actors have had the chance to raise their voices so that they could be heard. And therefore, we believe that through this project, we strengthen the capacity of the local and the national humanitarian actors to participate in humanitarian response in the regions of West Nile.
The enormous nature of humanitarian needs requires partnerships and a special localization agenda. Non-government organizations want government to empower local leaders to respond to disasters with minimal bureaucracy. Among other pertinent issues raised by humanitarian stakeholders include uncoordinated perception of government towards NGOs, the delayed National Disaster and Preparedness Management Bill, and the delayed Contingence Fund. Abdul Nasir Lubwama, UBC News.
And members of parliament from northern Uganda under their umbrella body Greater North Parliamentary Forum have called upon Ministry of Finance to address the issue of affirmative action, as this could affect developments in the region. This was during the forum meeting held at the office of the Prime Minister here in Kampala.
The northern region is remembered for massive massacres by rebel groups and wars that happened about 24 years ago. Until now, the region is still in recovery mode. It's against that backdrop that government, through its different programs like the parish model, think it can go a long way in changing lives of the affected people.
Wounds of the LRA war and cattle rustling in the north and northeastern Uganda are still highly visible.
Expressing our disappointment in the manner in which Ministry of Finance is arm twisting the Ministry of Northern Uganda, and particularly by withdrawing resources.
Leader of opposition Betty Awolo-Chan says government should come out with a clear strategic plan on how this program will benefit the people of the northern region.
Particular parish model which came on board within a short time, and the whole song is about it, is going to fail. It will fail like Ntandikwa, it will fail like Bonabagagawale. But if it is properly planned, parish model is not a bad model. Let them increase more funding, sensitize people. Let people not think that this money which has been brought to us here is for eating.
Honorable Leandro Komakech, MP Gulu Municipality, says government needs to address issues of power, compensation of war claimants, so that people can return to their normal lives.
A state of shock where we are seeing that we have a dark future for northern Uganda because restocking is closed. The funds for PRDP have been amalgamated for the parish model. The NDP 3 regional development programs affected. There is now zero funding for the post-war recovery and presidential pledges.
State Minister for Northern Uganda, Grace Kuyuchin, says as they await the certificate from the Ministry of Finance on money allocation, the parish model isn't the final structure to develop Northern region.
Colleagues from Northern Uganda have been worried, and they were saying, why are we rushing to the parish model before we have ended properly? You know, government has had affirmative action in Northern Uganda, and they think that the affirmative action programs should be properly assessed for impact. Parish model will not be the last. The parish model must be addressed together with other approaches. I think the main issue is that the parish model can only start the value chain process. The value chain process meaning that the people should be mobilized to identify what they can do best.
Jethro Kasaiji, Ivan Juko, UBC News.
Minister of State for Gender and Culture, Peace Mutuzo, has asked Ugandans to reflect on the dynamics that came along with the COVID-19 pandemic in order to recover. She was addressing media at Uganda Media Center in preparation for the commemoration of the Joint International Day of Family slated for the 14th of May.
From when the first lockdown was announced after the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been a rise in gender-based violence and early child marriages, among other related issues. Although police released a report showing a decline of 8.9% in the volume of crimes reported, defilement still stands out among the prevalent crimes, with a total of 13,682 children being defiled, the majority of whom with girl child. Minister of State for Gender and Culture, Peace Mutuzo, is now asking Ugandans to reflect on implications of the pandemic to find ways of recovery in preparation for the Joint International Day of Family, slated for 14th May 2021.
Let each one of us reflect on how together we can mitigate the challenges brought about by COVID-19 and revive the dignity of the family.
Mutuzo also advocates for protection of Ugandans against gender-based violence ahead of the Family Day.
Peaceful coexistence requires a mindset that is convinced about respecting each other and choosing to live with each other harmoniously.
She has, however, applauded the government and Ministry of Justice upon concluding more than 6,000 cases related to gender-based violence in half a year. Shaidat Nasaku, UBC News.
Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, together with Uganda Bureau of Statistics, are to kickstart registration of all livestock in the entire cattle corridor of the country. The Minister of State for Animal Industry, Bright Ramirama, says the exercise is to generate data concerning livestock and also allow good livestock accountability by the government.
Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, together with Uganda Bureau of Statistics, are to conduct a national livestock census in the entire cattle corridor of the country. The last census, conducted in 2008, indicated an increase in livestock, and this has posed a challenge to the ministry in terms of livestock management.
We have seen increase in the demand for livestock and livestock products from within and outside the country, and we have sometimes failed to meet these demands due to inadequate quantities and poor quality of standards and livestock products.
This exercise is to come up with exact numbers of livestock in the country to enable the ministry to compile credible livestock ownership data and accountability by the government.
The objective of the National Livestock Census is to establish livestock and poultry numbers at national and district level for planning purposes.
Quarterly and field assessment measures were highlighted to be used on stubborn livestock farmers who might resist giving their livestock information.
The country should be aware that we have a department at the district called the Production Department who are of a culture of hiding numbers of their livestock. They may be challenged, it may not alter our results substantively.
8,000 267 enumerators are to conduct this exercise that targets over 32,486 cattle corridors, and measures to ensure a good exercise have already been put in place.
The entire exercise will have a national, regional, district, sub-county and a parish supervisor.
This exercise is to be conducted between 17th and 18th of May 2021. Local leaders and district veterinary officers have been urged to monitor it. Lydia Chomkama, UBC News.
And the Minister for Information and National Guidance, Judith Nabakova, has urged communicators to spearhead agenda on what can be done to advance transparency in journalism. Nabakova made the remarks during the commemoration of the World Press Freedom Day 2021, organized by Uganda Media Women's Association in Kampala. The minister launched Mission 2025 agenda aimed at protecting female journalists and from security threats and attacks.
Media practitioners, activists, together with Uganda Women's Association, have met in Kampala to celebrate World Press Freedom Day. Presiding over the function, Minister for Information and National Guidance, Judith Nabakova, urged the media houses to have gender policies to overcome discrimination of women at workplaces.
I would want to encourage them to work as a team to address the challenges, because if we are not united, then it will be very difficult to have that voice that will bring concrete recommendations. It's very important that teams are put together to look at the practical issues.
Minister Nabakova also urged the media to make use of Media Council and also highlighted government's plans of strengthening media laws.
We rarely get complaints from the female journalists or journalists. You run to NGOs and civil society, yet government put for you a council, which council functions 24/7, waiting to address your issues. If your issues are not brought to the attention of the council, then it will be very difficult for us as a ministry to act.
Rosie Angoli from UNESCO recognized the efforts of women journalists and stressed the need for their safety.
Honorable Minister, we also recognize the fact that the safety of journalists and the media fraternity in line of work is a very crucial, it's a necessity.
The Executive Director, Uganda Media Women's Association, Margaret Sentamo, disclosed that there are allegations of plans to eliminate female journalists come 2026.
Josephine has just told us we are intimidated. We don't want to go there. The other day we were at UBC. Is this the kind of environment that we want as females? We all know that safety and security attacks against journalists come in different forms.
The celebrations ran under the theme Safety, Security, Threats and Attacks against female journalists in Uganda.
Meanwhile, refugees in Changwali settlement and Chakatu have received 2.2 billion shillings for humanitarian aid and resilience. Caritas International Belgium, in partnership with Caritas Hoima and Fort Portal, launched the program on humanitarian aid and resilience for victims of displacement in Changwali refugee settlement and Chakatu refugee settlements, respectively.
The program targets 23,000 refugees and will support 90 village savings and loan association groups with seed capital of 2.5 million per group. While launching the project at Kagoma village in Changwali refugee settlement, Alexandra Brex, the first secretary and deputy head of cooperation at the Embassy of Belgium, explained that the rising numbers of refugees is due to the worrying security situation, mainly in Democratic Republic of Congo, which has left people killed and others displaced.
Uganda is the first hosting country in Africa in terms of refugee, with now almost 1.5 million refugees. So the support of the international community is extremely important to support all those refugees, and of course Belgium is playing its role there. The way Belgium is supporting the cause of refugee is of course through the United Nations system. Of course Belgium is a strong believer in the United Nations and in multilateralism in general.
Bishop Vincent Chirabo of Hoima Catholic Diocese commended Belgium and donors for extending this support.
To act by being close to them, welcoming them, listening to them, serving them, protecting them, supporting them, promoting them, and building them, as Pope Francis points out to us.
Father Francis Majezi Xavier, the director Hoima Caritas Development Organization, says the project will support livelihood and skill younger refugees so that they can fend for themselves. Uganda accommodates about 1.3 million refugees across the country. George Ngonzi, Helen Barbara, reporting for Ubc TV News.
Commissioner Clinical Services at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Jackson Amone, has urged all corporate institutions in Uganda to take responsibility of organizing health camps at offices in order to enable them know their employees' health status. He was at Uganda Industrial Research Institute Health Camp Drive, where he represented the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health, Dr. Diana Atwine.
In short, I can tell you ATCG is the backbone of GMA.
In his keynote address, Commissioner of Clinical Services at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Jackson Amone, revealed that health camps are vital because they enable management to know the health status of their employees.
As they give this health camp or they provide the health services to their staff, they also have the responsibility of the corporate social responsibility which they can give to the institutions which are neighboring this place. So that is what they are doing right now.
Professor Charles Kwesiga, Executive Director of Uganda Industrial Institute, explained their main aim of organizing the health camp at this campus.
I hope you take maximum benefit out of this event and that we start a new relationship so that we can all contribute to the common cause of the welfare.
Mr. Mogisa William, one of the key organizers of this health camp, reiterated the need of all institutions to blood donation.
It is the best option. It is the way out for one to feel that really you have the collective responsibility of saving a life of the unknown. Okay? If we do it, we build Uganda. Bubu is not only building structures, making sure that you are safe.
This healthy camp was organized under the theme of encouraging health awareness and saving lives. Story compiled by Kenneth Tanaba for UBC News.
And with that, we'll take a quick break. When we return, more details. This is News Tonight.
Today in history.
On May 6, 1994, in a ceremony presided over by England's Queen Elizabeth II and French President Francois Mitterrand, a rail tunnel under the English Channel was officially opened. It was connecting Britain and the European mainland for the first time since the Ice Age. The Channel Tunnel, or Channel, connects Folkestone, England with Conquers, pronounced as Conqueris, and France, 31 miles away. The Channel cut travel time between England and France to a 35-minute swift, and eventually between London and Paris to a 2.5 hours. That was today in history.
social initiative on wealth and job creation, EMYOGA, was launched by the President of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, in August 2019. The Microfinance Support Center, together with other stakeholders, mobilized, sensitized, formed and registered over 200,000 parish-based savings associations under 6,344 EMYOGA SACCOs countrywide, reaching 4,114,200 individual beneficiaries. To date, 1,439,970 leaders of the parish-based associations have been trained in business skills, group management, mindset change, and patriotism, while 42,707 EMYOGA SACCO leaders have been trained in effective management of the SACCOs. The Microfinance Support Center has disbursed over 200 billion Uganda shillings to 6,344 constituency-based EMYOGA SACCOs countrywide. EMYOGA, reaching out to the most in need of financial services.
Kapo, you seem to be in a hurry. Where are you going to?
I'm going to pay URA visit.
But you can access URA online. Why pay a visit?
To know more about the Kakasa business solutions, namely digital tracking solution, the voluntary disclosure program, and electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution, which have turned my business around. You know I need to be on top of my game to protect my empire. If you know, you know.
I too need to know what Kapo knows.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business. Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
In efforts to improve quality assurance and Uganda's competitiveness as a tourist destination, Uganda Tourism Board is set to undertake a nationwide grading and classification exercise of hotel and accommodation facilities. As a member of the East African community, Uganda subscribes to the East African Grading and Classification Criteria, a system denoted by stars ranging from 1 to 5. The grading and classification exercise will be crowned by the awarding of star ratings to facilities found compliant to the EAC minimum standards. This is therefore a call to all accommodation and facility owners and managers to register and get licensed by UTB as a requirement and get ready for participation. For more information, visit www.utb.go.ug or email qualityassurance@utb.go.ug for details. Uganda Tourism Board, promoting tourism together.
The Teacher Management Information System, TMIS, is one of the innovations the Ministry of Education and Sports has rolled out to have all teachers register online. This is in line with the spirit of the National Teacher Policy to professionalize the teaching profession and the Ministry's effort to collate teacher data in a single database for better teacher management. Join us as we host officials of the Ministry of Education and Sports to discuss the Teacher Management Information System.
Join us this Friday, 7th May 2021 at 3 p.m. for a live talk show as we host Mr. Bateganya Moses, Education Officer, Minister of Education and Sports, Mr. Jonathan Kamwana, Commissioner Teacher Instructor, Education and Training Department, Minister of Education and Sports, and Mr. Valentine Award, TMIS Administrator.
The show is sponsored by the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, under the Norwegian Teacher Initiative in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and Sports.
Echa COVID-19 chijja kugwa. If we get vaccinated now, observe social distancing, wear masks properly, sanitize or wash our hands with soap and water regularly. Together we can defeat this enemy.
What does it mean to be closer together?
It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we love, because it's those things that bring us close together.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send, and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back. News Tonight continues in business news. Umeme top management will soon be back on the negotiation table with government for extension of its concession that ends 2025. According to Patrick Bitature, the board chairman, Umeme, further delays in concluding the process has had an impact on accelerating the much-needed investment in the electricity distribution system. Speaking at the 9th annual general meeting in Kampala, Bitature emphasized that the utility company is a partner in development and not a saboteur.
Umeme has defended itself from accusations of profiteering from high electricity tariffs.
There are about 6 distribution companies, or 7, but we distribute 97% of that electricity. The tariff is set by an independent person, the regulator, who oversees all of us, Electricity Regulatory Authority. We do not set the tariffs. Again, I repeat, we do not set the tariffs.
With less than 4 years to the end of its concession, the utility company believes it has performed exceptionally well to deserve an extension. Bitature claims those bashing the utility company are doing so from a point of ignorance.
We understand the concerns of our stakeholders and stakeholders surrounding the comments recently made by His Excellency the President on the electricity tariffs, especially the industrial consumers. Umeme remains committed to playing its part of the equation through driving distribution efficiencies, increasing consumption, and investment in the system to evacuate the increased generation capacity.
At the hybrid annual general meeting, Umeme presented a financial report to the shareholders on the company's performance for the year ended 31st December 2020. Key highlights included a decrease of net revenues to Uganda shillings 1.6 trillion, reduction of gross profit to 479 billion, and an increase of operating costs to 226 billion shillings, with the profit after tax reducing by 69% to 43.1 billion shillings from 139.2 billion shillings of 2019. The company announced a reduced dividend for its shareholders.
The board, and it will be talked about, recommended a dividend payout of 12.2 shillings per share, consistent with our dividend policy and desire for sharing value that was created. The books will close on 26th of June and the dividend will be paid on about 19th of July 2021.
At the AGM, the current board of directors and chairman's term of office were extended by the members who voted virtually. The re-election of Bitature makes him the longest-serving board chairman for the country's biggest utility company. Dennis Sigoa and Robin Yoso for UBC News.
And Makerere University Institute for Capacity Development has started empowering women circles in Wero Triangle ahead of introduction of parish model by government in the next financial year. Over 100 women groups have been trained to improve on financial literacy with special emphasis on group savings.
More than 85% of the people in rural areas, particularly those vulnerable to bad or uninformed financial choices, their incomes are largely low and irregular. Following this disturbing statistical information, AICAD forms a reason for training women groups in Luweero on how to manage their circles.
The idea of training women in Luweero by ICAD is a relic of what we have seen in Tanzania, Umoja villages, and in Kenya, where circles have deep roots, even in transport sector, in the farming sector. You can't sell milk as an individual, you must sell through society, cooperatives, and here you get a better negotiating power. And you can demand an equitable price vis-a-vis the investment you have put in any production.
Professor Dominic says if Ugandan women's circles adopt the region systems of financial management, it will complete government's efforts of boosting Uganda's economy as it looks forward to introducing the parish model.
And we are basically focusing on financial management, imparting financial management skills to women. We think that if the woman in a home is able to manage finances well, then it has a multiplier effect on the family. We think that skills development coupled with financial management is the way to go.
The representatives of the circles that were trained for 1 week called on government to facilitate more training that seek to get them out of poverty.
We've learned that we have to make businesses. We've learned different knowledge about business. We've learned record keeping, for example, stock, book, cash book, and many others.
Lwaleero tuyize ku nkwata y'essente, tuyize entandikwa y'okukola emirimu gyaffe nti yadde akalimu katonotono osobola okukajjamu ssente n'osobola okwebeezaawo.
AICAD, with support from Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development and the Ministry of Education and Sports, is implementing programs of livelihoods, income fortification and social civic transformation for the vulnerable in the region.
And the State Minister for Finance, Gabriel Ajedra, has urged management of Uganda Clearing Industry and Forwarding Association to invest more in capacity building of its agents to increase efficiency and transparency. The minister made the remarks at the swearing-in ceremony of the Uganda Clearing Industry and Forwarding Association Board and National Executive Committee members.
Abdullah Farjalla do solemnly swear.
New board and National Executive Committee members of Uganda Clearing Industry and Forwarding Association have been sworn in today by State Minister of Finance, Gabriel Ajedra. The new board members include Alhaj Jaffa as the chairperson, National Executive Committee, and Namutale William as the vice chairperson. The members have been urged to put much emphasis on tax collection.
Government will support you, and therefore will expect the new executive and the board members to engage with the Ministry of Finance and other relevant ministries such as Ministry of Energy and others, so that we can be able to have that partnership and to ensure that you take part in the opportunities that will be coming up in the oil and gas sector.
The patron, Uganda Clearing Industry and Forwarding Association, Captain Mike Mukula, is optimistic that a continuous plight in revenue collection will be attained.
After signing the oil deal, which was signed by the Tanzanian president and the president of Uganda about 2.5 weeks ago, there is now a budget to be spent of approximately 20 billion shillings, $20 billion. This $20 billion will go mainly to logistics. And this logistics entails clearing and forwarding. You are now going to work with organizations to develop efficiency. Honorable Minister of Finance, our message to you and our request and the private sector, let's walk the talk.
The Assistant Commissioner Trade at Uganda Revenue Authority, Dr. Geoffrey Okaka, asked Uganda Clearing Industry and Forwarding Association to identify themselves clearly following complaints from the taxpayers.
We are looking at bringing more taxpayers on board, because right now looking at our taxpayer register, we have around 1.7, but the potential taxpayers we should have in our register is about 7 million.
Uganda Clearing Institute and Forwarding Association, in partnership with Management Training and Advisory Center will spearhead training of clearing agents.
The institute will be an independent body that would focus on training needs assessment, professional capacity building, program design, and implementation.
Sudat Kai, UBC News.
Meanwhile, Macquarie University students have showcased their innovations that can inspire agribusiness development. At the expo on the university premises, the lecturers urged government to enact policies that support young entrepreneurs. Innovations, when scaled up, can impact positively on the innovations and the economy.
We are urging government to come up with an entrepreneurship policy that supports young entrepreneurs, these youth, so that they are able to start without those challenges, and then once they grow their businesses, then it is government that benefits through taxation and so on and so forth.
Government, through different ministries, has put in place several projects to support young people, though these face barricades before destination.
You have had government releases funds each year, although it is also not clear how those initiatives, those funds are acquired, but still you cannot see any outcome of the Myoga Fund and youth livelihood and so on and so forth. And therefore, from that experience, it's no longer an issue of funding, but rather the mindset.
The Vice Chancellor, Macquarie University, is optimistic of the new trends in the teaching environment, which focus on producing young people of upright minds towards self-employment.
To carry these ideas on, we are now doing the right things, and we just need to scale this up.
Students have exhibited innovations as solutions to the current entrepreneurs' plight.
These are healthy oils. They're found in pharmacies and even hospitals. So these are they are known, like they are natural mosquito repellents. Like their scent just repels mosquitoes. So that is what we use. That is what we put inside the
use of earthworms to consume this biodegradable household waste, such as banana peelings and avocados. So we leave the household waste to ferment or rot for about a week, and then in week 2 we introduce the earthworms. So the earthworms consume the biodegradable waste as they're excreting.
The existing fertilizers that are on market, they are synthetically made. They contain a lot of chemicals. In that, when they are applied on our plants and they dissolve in the soil, they end up draining away the fertility that is already within within the soil.
This was the 5th Macquarie University Entrepreneurship Expo, where students present different research projects while expressing their eligibility to fight unemployment after university courses. Lydia Chomkama, UBC News.
Advocates Coalition for Development and Environment, Accord, and Civil Society Budgetary Advocacy Group, CSBAG, in partnership with the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, have held a dialogue on the economy with emphasis on how best the country can realize a speedy recovery after suffering devastating effects of COVID-19 pandemic. Now, during the meeting, it was revealed that the parish development model is a key strategy for next financial year for expanding the economic base that will intensify the fight against poverty. The meeting ran under the theme Economic Recovery and Reigniting Economic Growth.
In the coming financial year 21-22, government will invest 200 billion to start the implementation of the parish model. This model is aimed at taking the whole of government development effort to the parish level. First and foremost, to lift the 3.2 million households living in subsistence economy into the money economy.
So we want to focus on effective debt management and sustainability. I hope the minister will give us the exact figures. COVID-19 has also pushed us into borrowing. We don't want to run into another grave. We also don't want to bequeath our future generations, our children and the children of our children, a debt like the US. The US is highly indebted. I know most countries are going to contract a lot of debt. And I think the challenges that we face, like most countries, is debt contraction, debt management, and debt servicing. Our public debt remains sustainable in the medium to long term. As of December 2020, the stock of our debt was at $17.9 billion. And out of that, 11.69 was external and 6.29 was domestic, which actually came to 47.2% of our GDP in nominal terms. Recall, we had agreed with East African countries that to be cautious as we move forward, we should remain within 50% as a threshold.
And in the world of sports, Confederation of African Football has announced that the start of the group stage qualifiers for the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar have yet again been postponed to September. The African group stage qualifiers were set to be played in a 5-month window between June and September 2021, but have been moved again due to the resurgence of the new COVID-19 pandemic variants that has seen another reshuffle of the CAF calendar. Quarantine and pre-match testing protocols that have been a cause of concern for many of CAF's member associations and caused widespread criticism during CAF club competitions have been cited as the prudent reason for the reconsideration with FIFA on the move of the fixtures. A new and updated fixture schedule will be released in the due course. Preliminary group stage matches are expected to be played over 3 windows starting September 2021 to November 2021, with October window, which was initially set aside to cater for international friendlies, now utilized. 40 African nations were drawn in 10 pools from which the group winners will then advance to the play-off round, where the victors after 2 legs will earn a place in Qatar. The play-off round matches are now expected to be played by March 2022. With that, let's quickly take a look at the top stories for the night. Human Rights Committee of Parliament recommends immediate arrest of Brian White. Rebel leader Dominic Ongwen handed 25-year jail term. Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development posts 90% score in the NRM manifesto. And in sports, group stage qualifiers for the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar postponed to September. Well, that does it for News Tonight. Elizabeth Nakakoni on Sign Language. I am Rhoda Ngonzi. Have yourselves a good night.
مرحب يا هلال أهلا أهلا كيف الحال قد غبت وإليك اشتقنا وانتهى بعدك صار وصال نعطي صبرا نأخذ أجرا والله يرانا ويسمعنا نغفر زلا نوصل أهلا لأن رمضان يجمع.
Give thanks to Allah for the moon and the stars. Praise Him all day for what is and what was. Take hold of your iman. Don't give in to shaitan. Oh, you who believe, please give thanks to Allah. Allahu Ghafoor, Allahu Rahim, Allahu yuhibbul muhsinin. Wa khaliquna wa raziquna.